So 20 minutes is a longer video than I intended. There's a lot of details in here that are worth knowing if this is something you're interested in, but the payoff is about 19 minutes in. And that's what I did not know in the last video I made, which is kind of the reason I was making this video in the first place. But anyway, see you there. Hey, welcome back. Let's have another look at OBS, lower thirds, and graphics done with the new in and out transition. I know, I did one already. And you might ask, why? Why? Oh, why are we doing another one? Well, 3 reasons. One is to correct a mistake. Well, it's not really a mistake. I just learned some since the last time. And we'll get to that at the end. Now, that's not what to the end for a special treat. It just happened at the last part of the process. The second reason is I have students that I need to show how to do some of this stuff. And most of the tools that you use to do these sort of graphics are either in After Effects or you need Photoshop for it. To which my students tell me, but Shade, I can't afford Photoshop and After Effects. Well, they have a 30-day free trial. I've already done that twice. So the free tools are, enticing. And the more time my students spend inside of OBS, the more comfortable they'll be with it. So it's kind of a win-win for me. And the third thing is that I wanted something a little bit more refined. Now, let me tell you the story about how this actually came to be. I was actually looking for a free resource that I could pass on to my students that gave a video background that you could just put the name changes over. And I found this at a site called VidEasy. It's simple, it's got a little bit of flash to it and a little bit of refinement, but simple and relatively easy. But that's an After Effects. And even though it's free, I can't make sure my students have After Effects legally. So looking at that simplicity, let's see again. That's pretty simple. And those are basic shapes. And I'm pretty sure I can replicate that with simple transition and shapes in OBS. So, in fact, I did. More or less. And again, that's entirely done inside OBS. So let's take a look. Here is my OBS installation. Now I've done something here. We've got this little well-named layer right here, which gets rid of the forever wormhole. I'll have to turn that on and off while we do this in order to show you all the elements, but that's I can do for now. So we're going to start with a color source. Add a color source. We're going to call this GRN bar, the green bar. We make that 180 so you can see everything. Again, almost everything. And we'll make it 800 wide. And we'll change the color to this green, which is close enough. Okay, and we'll get it down off my face to right about there. Next up, we're going to hide that so you can see all the menus. Again, add now a gradient. We're going to call that green N. Okay, again, 180 width. We'll make it 200 long. And now the fun part. We're going to change the steps here to 2. I'm going to change the color for the first 2 segments to green. And we're going to rack these midpoint sliders all the way down to get a nice sharp line. Then change the angle of it to about yay. Okay. Now this has this kind of fade at the end. I'm not too fond of that. So I'm going to knock the opacity of the last black layer down. There'll still be a little bit of you can see it here over my face. There's still a little bit of, but good enough. Now we'll bring the green bar back up and then drop this in about the right place. Hard to see with that little red line there, but give it a nice little bump with a key, and that should be it. Now, we need to turn this into a group so that we don't have to deal with putting these animated together. Control click on one and then the other of these 2 elements, and then group selected item. So we'll call it bar GRP. GRP is important, and you'll see why in a bit. Bar group, and now if I have those on, you can see with one control, I can control them both. And we're going to add a show transition. See, now this is important. I almost just add the show transition to the item inside the group. Really easy mistake to make. Gotta add the show and high transition. to the group. Otherwise, it gets a little confusing. Show transition. We're going to do a slide, which I prefer to the swipe. And we want this whole thing to slide in that way. Okay. Let's see what that looks like. Ooh, fancy. Now we'll add a hide transition. We want it to hide the same way. Slide, except go in the other direction. Good. And now we'll take a look. So far, so good. We'll hide that for the moment. And now we need a little white bar where the title is going to go. So we'll add a color source. We'll call it WHT bar. Oh, name already exists because I've used it in my example. Well, all right, we'll call it WHITE bar. We're going to make this 50 wide and 600 long. And now that looks white if you're not careful, but it's not. So we have to set this to actual white. There we go. And bring up our green bar group and bring this in right about there. And now I'm going to do the first thing that doesn't quite make sense right off the bat. I'm going to take this one element, it's the white bar, and I'm going to put it in its own group. It'll make sense in a minute. White bar, group selected, and we're going to call this white GRP again. Now, let's head to our settings and go to hotkey. And now the hotkey list is everything in your OBS. It's a mess. So in our filter, we put in GRP. So I'm going to use the equal sign as my hotkey. Now, that is a problem. If you ever use the equal sign in anything else that you're doing while you've got the session running, it'll start triggering those hotkeys. But if you have a keyboard with a numpad, you can use these num key to trigger hotkey events, and there'll be less conflicts with other things. But I'm going to use the equal sign for now, and you can see I can bring the whole thing in and out. Oh, my white is not. There we go. Need to synchronize those. There we go. Now we can bring them in and out together. Okay. So obviously we need better transitions on that white bar. White bar group. We want to show that show transition. We want to slide in with that one as well. We want to slide in from that direction. Okay. And we want that. We want to hide. We want to slide out in that direction. Now we run into our first technical difficulty. See, that bar is starting up in the black because it's starting right from the edge of its shape. We can fix that. We hide these things, and we're going to add another color source. We're going to call this white spacer. Make that 50, and we'll say 600. Bring up our group. And I'm going to move this. Oh, wait, no, this needs to be longer. So I'm just going, should have been 800. That's okay. We can just drag it out. And we're going to put it there-ish. We're going to hide it. And then we're going to move it into the group, the white group. So now, if you look at the size of the white group, you see how long that is? That actually moved the whole group off the edge of the screen. Now let's see how that timing looks. Now background up. There. So now the white is coming in. Might not be quite enough. What we can, there's a couple of things we can do for that. We can either make the spacer longer, or what I'm pretty sure we're going to need to do anyway, just for timing differences, is to take the show transition on the white bar group and increase the length of it to say 1200 milliseconds. Yeah, it kind of comes in at the end a little bit. I like that. I don't like that it kind of, you see it off the edge of the screen, so to speak. It's not really the edge of the screen. It's just my black block for the confusing part. But if you want to reduce that confusion, make sure the group is selected, hold Alt, and crop in the side to wherever you want it. Now we'll use that later because we have to, but for now, this is just kind of a nice thing because we're pretending that black is the edge of the screen. Put the screen back, and there you go. The white is just overlapping the black a little bit on the way out, which tells me we need to make the white group hide transition shorter. I'm actually going to make it considerably shorter. We're going to make it 800 instead of 1,000. Yeah, that looks nice, doesn't it? 800 might be a little fast. Let's bump that back up to 900. Now it's time for our text. Title that stuff again. We will add a text. We're going to call this inspiring title. And we're going to make this Arial black, and we're going to make that 65 points. Now you can drag the size around later, but if you leave the point size the same, then it makes using different words than the ones we're using in this example a little easier. Okay. And we want this to be green. And of course, we put in our text, inspiring title, exclamation point. Cool. Bring our stuff back and put that inspiring title in right about there. Now you can see by the shape of it here, you see where that red bounding box is. We're going to have the same trouble that we had with the white bar. So we're going to have to fix that. But first we're going to put it in its own group again. So group selected items, title, GRP, and then we'll head back to our settings and add it to the key. And now, of course, it just pops in and out. So we'll make this, we want this to swipe, and we want it to swipe in the opposite direction. That's correct. Test that. That's what we want it to do. So it starts in the black. And then we'll try the spacer trick again. Add color source, title, spacer. On a key, and let's make it 1,000. Color doesn't matter, because we're just going to hide it. Let's put it, give it a nice wide end on the other side, move it into the title group, and hide it. So now the title group has a much larger size. See how that looks. So now our inspiring title is not appearing in the black, but of course it's sliding off the edge of the screen again. So, like so. Of course, it's not doing exactly what I wanted to. That hide transition, I don't think I set up. Hide transition, okay. We actually want it to swipe in the opposite direction. Yeah, that way. So let's have a look and see how that. Wow, that really looks bad. So once again, make sure group is selected, and then hold Alt, crop that extra space off like so. And then it should disappear right where it appeared. Take a look. Not bad, huh? Now we need our first name. Add text. First name. We're going to leave this as Arial, and we're going to call it first, because that's what the template says. But we do need to change the size. I believe this is 90? 90. Okay. Double check that it's white. Bring our elements back and move it into place. Like about that. Sure. Go ahead and put last in as well. So text, last name. Now this one's going to be Arial black, because that's the way that the template kind of looked. Font size needs to be 120. I don't know why the fonts are different sizes, but they are. And then bring our elements back up here. Wait, and then bring that down. Line it up about yay. So close. Maybe bump it down 1. Okay, that looks like it's flat. Okay, first name of the group. First ERP. Last name. Last group. Okay. Go back to our settings and add them to the key. Spell it? Yeah, GRO. Make sure those are all synchronized. And so now first group, yes, needs to swipe in that way. Yeah, that looks right. And then the last group needs to swipe in the other way. Oh. Yep. Then we're going to need spacers again. So we'll add a color source. First spacer. We'll make it 50 by 800, we'll say. Hide it and add it to the first group. And we'll move it into a place that makes sense for the first name. We'll see how that works. And then add a color source. Last spacer. 50, and that's longer, so I'm going to make it 1,000 just to see. Move it about into place where it makes sense. Hide it, add it to the last group. Synchronize all these guys and see how it looks. Make them longer. Got up about that. So let's make our show transition here for the longer name, 2.5, and for the shorter name, we'll make it like 1,300. Let's see how that looks. Much better. Not too bad, huh? Oh, we need an outgoing transition on the name, the first and last. So hide transition, we want to swipe out again. This is for last. We want last to go out that direction. Yeah. And first, we want to swipe in that direction. These are also going to have to be much shorter. So I'm going to change the outgoing to 600 for both of them. Oh, look. Again, so they kind of overlap on the way out, and that looks messy as all get out. So we go into our group, we hold Alt, and we crop out the edge, the outgoing edge. And we leave a little green between the two of them, and that way they shouldn't ever actually touch each other as they're going out. Have a look. There we go. So there we have it. That is about the same as what I had done previously, a little bit better in my mind. But it turned out that we can actually have individual transitions on both the group and the individual items in the group if they are all set up on the same hotkey. And that is the mistake I made in the first instance. So I am going to go to all of these individual elements and add a fade transition on the way out. Add transition fade, 1,000 milliseconds is fine for this example. Fade. I'm going to fade it. Inside the white group, we take the white bar. Inside the bar group, we take both the bar and the bar. Now we've got to add all of those to the hotkey, and that's kind of a bummer. So now everything fades in. Oh, I need to figure the rule synchronize. So everything's on that's supposed to be on, and the hotkey just toggled it. There we go. There's a nice little fade out on that. There it is. I am well pleased. Now, that's ridiculous. It's a lot of effort to put together one title, and it is indeed easier to do that in Photoshop or After Effects, even Premiere. What that is for doing it inside OBS entirely, and I certainly would not expect to do that on the fly. Every time you change the size of the names and the titles, every time you change that, your timing would get messed up. So you know which titles you're going to make for your presentation. So you have like chapter headings or the title of a person, name of a person that you're interviewing. You set that up in advance. But it's entirely done inside the software, so you don't need any other tool to do it. And it looks okay. That's the original one that I did. Timing's a little different, but Anyway, that's what I got. I hope you enjoyed that one. If it was interesting at all for you, please consider giving me a like and a subscribe instead. I'd really appreciate that. And I will catch you in the next one. Take care.